Hunt, fish, listen, repeat. Broadcasting from the Prairie Sportsman Studios, this is Sporting Journal Radio. Heard in Minnesota, the Dakotas, Wisconsin, and online at sportingjournalradio.com. This is Sporting Journal Radio, presented by OnX. Know where you stand with OnX. All right, welcome to the show. I'm Bret Amundson. Thank you for tuning in on the network, by demand, sportingjournalradio.com, or by subscribing to our podcast wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Or maybe you're watching this on our YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram. We appreciate that very, very much. So many things to get to this week. We're going to bring on Dan Amundson right now. Dan, how you doing, man?
Pretty good. How are you?
Not too bad. So this week, we are going to recap the Governor's Opener with Erik Osberg, and it's going to be a special week because it's the first time he's been able to relax in about 2 years. So we're going to talk about how it went for him. Would he do it again? We'll ask him. Plus, we are going to show you, if you're watching this, we're going to show you our trip up to Otter Tail Lakes country in the video that we made during our time up there here in just a little bit. We've also got Joe Henry. We're going to talk about Lake of the Woods and the Northwest Angle and some new changes to the border crossing going into Canada. Dan, they decided to extend the border closure with Canada here the other day. Not real happy about that. Personally. We were going to try to get Tim Springer from Dynamic Retrievers on the show this week. Sorry, Tim, we're gonna push you back one more week. So we've got some dog training tips coming up next week here on the show with Tim Springer. We filmed a bunch of dog tips with his DIY method. We're gonna show you all about that. But we got so much fishing content from the fishing opener that we want to get to. And then I'm gonna be traveling to Saskatchewan here soon. As long as I can get across the border, which I should be able to. But I may end up, I've got a whole bunch of quarantining to do, so we're going to make sure that we have content for next week's show. So that's a little peek behind the curtain here at Sporting Journal Radio for you. But so much stuff to get to. In fact, we went on an asparagus hunt the other day. If you've never seen an asparagus hunt, we're going to show you what one looks like here in just a second. But Dan, how is life as a college graduate and a 21-year-old? How have things been going?
Well, I hear this from retired people all the time. They say once they retire, they're busier than ever. And same's kind of going right now. I've been busy. I'm trying to move out of this house. I'm trying to do 1,000 different things, trying to hunt, fish, and get everything done. But it's pretty good. The weather is beautiful. I'm still up here in Bemidji. The weather is making it really, really, really hard to leave this place. It's gorgeous. The fish are biting. It's been fun. It's been really good.
You were out on Leech for the opener?
Yeah, we went to Leech, joined the circus out there. We've been doing that for the last few years. And a circus it was. They couldn't get away from boats. It was a beautiful day. But if you know Leech Lake at all, a beautiful day doesn't always mean good fishing. It was hit or miss for a lot of folks. Some people banged out a limit in 20 minutes. Some people struggled like us. And, we only boated 2 walleyes, a few other perch and pike and whatnot. But it was tough. Sunny skies don't bode well on these zebra mussel-ridden lakes up here.
Yeah, well, I dealt with the same thing. Clear, calm water on opener. And I'll tell you and show you more about my experience coming up later in the show. But, Dan, have you ever gone searching for asparagus?
Just at the grocery store.
Well, nature has a giant grocery store, and this is what it looks like. I am not a big vegetable guy. I wish I was. I wish I liked it more. I wish I was able to eat a little bit healthier. I'm starting to do a garden, but I love asparagus. Foraging for wild foods is good too, and we are at a place. Just got here with Tony Crotty. He's already picking some stuff, it looks like. But we're going to go find some asparagus in the ditch. All right, so it got a little windy, so I'm going to do some voiceover here. Basically, I'm talking about asparagus hunting being pretty easy. You don't need a lot of gear. Bring a bag like this handy-dandy one. Oh, Tony just interrupted me by telling me he found some really good asparagus over there. So we're going to head over there and check it out right now. So I'm going to bring this bag I got during the governor's fishing opener in Ottertail County, where you can find your inner otter. I'm using my inner otter to find some asparagus right now. Let's go see what he's got. It's a springtime thing to do. It's a lot of fun. It's delicious. There's a rooster in the grove right over here. If you're going to search on private property, make sure you got permission for it. So there's a whole assortment of wild edibles that you can forage for, from mushrooms to wild onions, leeks, ramps, whatever. There's also some rare items that once in a while you can come across, and it's like hitting the mother lode of wild edibles. Lasagna. Now there's something about finding it in the wild. It just tastes better than when you buy it at the store. So you hear people talk about not mowing ditches, and the reason for that is because it provides valuable habitat. The amount of acreage that it provides for additional wildlife habitat in Minnesota is, when I heard the number, it's astounding, it's remarkable. And we're about to see why, because you'll have ground nesting birds like pheasants, even ducks. They'll use this grass in the ditches to nest in. And Tony just found one. Let's go take a look. Where's it at? Right there. I was gonna say either duck or pheasant. Looks like pheasant. Well, apparently it's going to be a good year, because about a mile away in a different ditch, we came across another nest. Well, that just scared the heck out of me. I don't know if you can see her, but there's a hen mallard down in that ditch down there. And earlier we found a nest in the ditch like this. Whew. That scared me. Like right here, that hen literally popped up 3 feet away from me. Probably, yeah, there's the nest and the eggs. Right in there. She was sitting right on it. Scared the heck out of me. Whew. There she goes. Tony was walking by her down the creek down there. She just got up and flew away, but I guarantee you she won't go far. So I'm just gonna leave. She's starting to come back. Well, it's a good thing I left. Look at this. There's some asparagus that I wouldn't have found if I hadn't been getting away from Mama. Thank you. There's a whole bunch of it, actually. One good one there. A couple of smaller ones. You can see where people have been breaking them off here, too. A couple of good ones right here, right on the ditch, or right on the shoulder, actually. You can find asparagus usually around May. I tend to start looking when all my buddies see their garden asparagus popping up. Do some research and find out what asparagus plants look like, because you'll see them later in the summer and in the fall. Remember those locations, because they tend to grow back in the same places year after year. Asparagus patches can be a closely guarded secret, much like your favorite fishing hole. So use caution when you're telling people where you're finding your asparagus. And if somebody brings you to their patch, don't go back to it without them. Bring a knife, bring a bag, prepare for wood ticks, and look for asparagus that's about the diameter of a pencil or larger and before it's gone to seed. Something healthy to eat, something that you can forage for in the wild, and something to make your bathroom smell funny. Enjoy. So there you go. That was from our asparagus hunt the other day. And Dan, I will a couple of things from that. I will say one tip of probably the best tip I can give when you're asparagus hunting that I didn't have in that video is when you get down on grass level and you can look around, a lot of times you'll see those asparagus spears, shoots, whatever, sticking up over the top of the surrounding grass. And that's exactly why I found those too when that hen mallard scared the crap out of me, because I turned around and I was down lower than the shoulder, than the road level, and I was looking eye level. That asparagus was sitting eye level for me. And I talked to a few guys about those nests afterwards. And pheasant eggs tend to be a little bit darker. So I think that first nest was a pheasant nest, although there was one white shiny egg in there. So part of me wonders if a mallard snuck by and dropped off a friend. But the other one obviously was a mallard nest because we kicked that mallard hen off of it. So I think we found a pheasant nest and a mallard nest there about a mile apart. It was a pretty cool experience out there.
Yeah, it looks pretty neat. I'm headed that way in a week. Maybe I'll have to walk around some ditches and try to find some dinner in a unique way. It's pretty cool. I love asparagus. It's so good.
It's so good. And I then I came back and I was in the house and I was busy doing a bunch of stuff. And I looked out my window and I've got a food plot behind the house here, and I got a ground blind set up for photography. And I saw pheasants. It was 79 degrees, and I saw pheasants walking around the food plot. And I was like, all right, so I got to run out there, and dropped everything. I had work to do, dropped everything, ran out there, and I had one of the coolest experiences in the ground blind. And I took like 1,000 pictures, Dan, and I got some good ones, some really cool ones, but I had 2 different fights going on between roosters. There was one rooster there that was fighting off all the other intruders. He had one hen left with him. I'm guessing all the other hens that he had were on nests. He had one hen with him, and all these other roosters knew it, and they were trying to slide into her DMs. And he was just like, nope, not having any of it. He was crowing all around me. I got pictures and video of him crowing and puffing up right in front of me. And then 2 different fights. And both times the intruder came flying right at the ground blind, and I could not get my camera up fast enough to get a picture. And I was trying. I did get one photo. I wonder if I can do this. I did get one photo of the one of the roosters sitting in one of the trees before he got pushed out straight towards me. So I'm going to try to pull up that photo. And then they started flying right at me, and I was like, I was trying to get a picture of it, and I just couldn't get the camera to focus. I don't know if you can see it. Can I make this any bigger?
Oh, yeah, I can see it.
Can you see the rooster in there? He's hiding in there.
It's like, where's Waldo?
Yeah, right? That's what I thought was pretty cool about that picture. And then here is the picture that I'm so mad about, because like this was the one. This was the shot. He pushed that bird right out of the tree and then came flying, winging after him like that, and I just could not focus. Like that would have been probably one of my favorite photos of all time right there. And
gosh, yeah, that's photographer's nightmare. Gosh. We've all been there.
Just didn't get it.
Just part of the game.
Way she goes. By the way, I want to thank Pheasants Forever. I have an article in the new Pheasants Forever magazine about dog hunting in really cold conditions with your dog and keeping your dog safe. Thank you, Pheasants Forever. Check it out. If you're a member, if you're not, become a member. Better yet, see the shirt that Dan's wearing right now, the Conservation Crossing from Sam Soholt and Public Land Tees. That gets you 5 memberships for $125. So that's what, 20, anyway, it's a discount on what you would normally be paying to get into all these other organizations out there. And you get into Pheasants Forever, Delta Waterfowl, Mule Deer Foundation, Wild Turkey Federation, and Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. So check it out at publiclandtees.com. All right, Dan, it's time to try out a new feature here on the show. We haven't come up with a real good name for it yet, so we're going to call it Snaps Gone Wild. Hey, Snaps Gone Wild. And it's a snapshot or Snapchat or videos or pictures, something that you have sent to us. It's viewer, listener submitted videos of something that crazy that's happened in the wild. And if you send them in to us at sportingjournalradio.com, send them in to us. If we use yours here on the show, we'll send you a free t-shirt. This one came in to us from Garrett Sahana. Check out this. He was turkey hunting the other day, and he had 4 jakes come, and they ended up being around his blind and his decoys for 3 hours messing around, strutting and fighting and messing with the hen decoy. He had a tom just off the distance that would not come in because of those jakes. So he just sat back and enjoyed the show. And 2 of them really got into it to the point where one of them had the other's head almost completely in its mouth. And I think he said they stayed like that fighting around him for like a half an hour or something. Here's the Snap Gone Wild. There it is. Snaps Gone Wild. Thanks, Garrett. We'll get you a Sporting Journal Radio t-shirt for that crazy turkey video right there. If you got a cool video from the outdoors, send it to us at sportingjournalradio.com. It's time to bring on Erik Osberg and talk about the Governor's Fishing Opener recap. We're going to do that next. Devil's Lake is legendary, and this summer has been legendary for walleyes. Don't miss out. Call Haybale Heights Campground and Resort today to book one of their modern cabins on East Bay. The cabins are furnished with a full bathroom, kitchen, and all the amenities like high-speed internet and are clean following CDC guidelines. Staying at Haybale Heights gives you full access to a private boat launch, fish cleaning station, and beach area. Learn more at haybaleheights.com. That's haybaleheights.com. Plan your trip to legendary Devil's Lake today. Presented by Onyx. Broadcasting from the Prairie Sportsman Studios. All right, welcome to the show. I am Bret Amundson. Thank you for tuning in on the network, by demand, sportingjournalradio.com, or by downloading the podcast wherever you get your favorite podcast, or maybe you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Facebook page, or Instagram. I don't know why I did this giant motion into the camera. I probably scared anybody that was watching it at close range right now. In any case, we've got a lot to talk about right now. Erik Osberg is going to join us from Otter Tail Lakes country. Erik, how you doing, man?
This is as good as I've been in a long time, Bret.
I bet you made it. The Governor's Fishing Opener. Congratulations.
Thanks, man, and appreciate you being there. And I don't think it could have gone any better. There's so many things that have to come together for it to work the way you intended it to work, and it all just came together. The boat hosts that showed up and the guests that showed up, and my boss gave it a 12 out of 10. And when your boss gives it a 12 out of 10, you feel like, okay, we didn't. Yeah, exactly. That's great. That was my mood on Saturday night. So thanks to everybody who was involved that made it a memorable weekend.
You know, this is the time that you ask for a raise, right? You understand that? I'm just trying to give you a little advice, friend to friend.
I appreciate that. Now might be a good time to talk about the pay schedule.
So, Erik, before we get into it a little bit more, we went up there and we were invited to be a part of it as media. I brought the camera gear. I did some fishing, and this is the video that we made during our Governor's Fishing Opener. Right here. Here we go. Found it. We're en route to the Governor's Fishing Opener. I got Tiny and Mika along for the ride, and a fully loaded pickup truck. We were headed to Otter Tail County for the Governor's Fishing Opener that was supposed to take place there last year, but was pushed back to 2021 because of the pandemic. Our destination was Sunset Bay Resort on Dead Lake. An account of the bloody battle between the Sioux and the Chippewa in 1843 is how Dead Lake got its name. A sign near the boat launch tells the story, as told by Standing Buffalo. It's the night before the opener, so we're pan fishing right now with Randon Olson back there. Say hi, Randon.
Hi.
All right, what was your name, man?
Pete Turinskas. 2021, we're back, COVID.
Talk about that dark color during the spawn like that or post-spawn, Randon.
It's kind of like mallards, how they'll turn from molting. It's kind of the same thing. Once that spawn starts coming, all those hormones get rolling and the males will start to turn black.
I work for WCCO Radio, Minneapolis.
How's fishing?
Fantastic. I'll tell you what, walleye openers tomorrow, but this is about the best crappie fishing I've had in many, many years.
All right, Randon, well, thanks for having us out.
Yes, sir. It's going to be fun.
Should we take a peek in here real quick? How's it been so far? What is your preferred method cleaning these crappies, Randon?
I love going over the ribs and then leave the skin attached, and then I'll just leave a little piece like that so you're legal going down the road with them.
Well, if you've ever wondered how a place called Sunset Bay gets its name, you're about to find out. Because in about 15 minutes, that is going to be fire in the sky with calm water. It doesn't get much better than that.
Growing up as a kid, my family and I went to resorts, and it was something my wife and I looked at about 30 plus years ago, but we were starting a family and economics didn't work out, and we put it off for a long time. But when the market crashed in 2008, my job changed quite a bit, And we came back to Minnesota and bought the resort. Fell in love with this one because of the layout and the nice beach, and it's the second largest lake in Otter Tail County, which attracted us also. And Otter Tail County has over 1,000 lakes. It's got 36 miles of shoreline and a lot of different structure that you can fish. A lot of different species in the lake. Black crappie, sunny, walleye, northern, and smallmouth bass are the predominant ones. We thought the name would turn some people off, Dead Lake, but it's kind of a hidden gem, honestly. Being the second largest is nice because everybody goes to Otter Tail Lake versus Dead Lake. And people who find it, though, they come back all the time. Looking out every night from our shoreline, looking west, you can see gorgeous sunsets every night. We had a rain tonight and another good sunset coming right now.
Good morning from Dead Lake. Doesn't get much better than this, boys and girls. I've been out for openers here in Minnesota where there's been snow on the ground, ice on the lake. There's barely a ripple on the water. It's probably 42 degrees, but it's supposed to get up to about 72 today. So I've had people giving me a hard time that I'm showing sunsets and sunrises and birds gobbling and whatever. And where's the walleyes? I just lost one at the boat. I know nobody's gonna believe me because I don't have proof. Had him up to the boat and he popped off. With the clear water, high sun and calm conditions, the walleyes were tight-lipped. So we made the best of it, did some dog training. We introduced Tiny to dock jumping and brought her in the boat for the first time. We even let the old girl Mika have a little bit of fun too. Well, there it is. Our time in Otter Tail Lakes country for the Governor's Fishing Opener 2021. Erik, thanks for having us up there. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. I got chills, man. I watching that video. I got chills. Well, and so like I was saying how everything came together, right? Like you and Randon have you know each other, so you got to spend time with Randon, and then Adam Carter, like he wanted to fish with me. That's what he told me anyways. And I was like, I don't think that's a great idea. But then it was able, he was able to get in the boat with you guys and to have you at Dead Lake, that was important. And the resort owners are right. That lake is super underlooked as far as the fishery goes or a destination goes. Between Otter Tail, Dead, and Star, and they're kind of all connected there, there's 25,000 acres of water just between those lakes. And
crazy.
That's so there's Otter Tail, and then there's Dead, and then if you go up one more, then there's Star, and it you put those three together, and they're 10 minutes apart between each of them. So great job on the video, man. I really appreciate that. And that's what. So I've been trying to explain what this weekend is all about. And it's about creating shared experiences. So you had a shared experience with Randon, you had a shared experience with Adam and his buddy. And then you have, and then creating memories, right? Like that you're going to remember, or hopefully you're going to remember that trip for a long time. And we had, I'm ballparking here, but 200 people, right? Whether they were media or elected officials or other invitees, the stories that I heard Saturday afternoon, and people texting me pictures of fish, and like everybody came away with the weekend, I hope, with a smile on their face and a good story to share. And when I talk about it being a success, that's what I mean. Is that, and the other thing that I would like to say, in your video, I think did a good job of describing it, was I wanted fishing to be the centerpiece. right? Sometimes there's a thing called scope creep where it becomes about something else. Mm-hmm. And I really believe that we were able to make the 2021 Minnesota Governor's Fishing Opener about fishing, or at the very least about outdoor recreation. And there's the gals from WSI Sportswear. They were out, things coming together. I had two buddies, Jesse Tintis and Chad Smith, and I didn't have them lined up as boat hosts until the week before. And so I asked them, I'm like, can you help? And they're like, yep, we got the weekend open for you. And there was 5 gals from WSI Sportswear that were staying at Bonnie Beach Resort on Clitheroe Lake. And so I asked Jesse Tintis, I'm like, do you know anything about Clitheroe? He's like, well, we're fishing there tonight. So yeah, we know, you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't have planned Jesse Tintis and Chad Smith to spend the whole weekend with these 5 gals. Like, I couldn't have saw that coming. It just happened, and they caught oodles of crappies. They caught bass. They caught obviously some walleyes too. And there's literally 100 of those stories of people coming together, the things all coming together. They got out and went fishing. The folks that fished ottertail struggled, right? Like if they chose ottertail, and I hope that isn't a sign of the summer to come, but the folks that went on other lakes, they caught a lot of fish.
Well, it's funny how things can all fall into place like that. Sometimes things have a way of working out, and you can call it divine intervention. You can call it luck. You can also call it being prepared and doing your job. And when you do your job the right way, things have a tendency to work out. Maybe it's a combination of all three, but I had a great time, and I'm glad. And I'm a little guilty of taking fishing off the precedence just a little bit this weekend, just because the weather was so nice and it was fun to be out there, and there was a ton of wildlife, and the weather was perfect, and I had my dogs with, and I was staying at a new resort, checking out a new lake, and I had all this fancy camera gear that I got to take sunset pictures with and all that stuff. But I'm glad you talked about fishing being the priority, because this is the fishing opener. And without going on a long rant about the day and age that we're living in, so much so many other things are getting the attention, and fishing and hunting to some extent, it's getting knocked down a little bit, or it's not as promoted as often. So I'm glad that you talked about fishing being a priority, and especially in Ottertail Lakes country, when you got 1,000 lakes. I mean, the fishing opportunities are it's out of this world up there. So hey, I caught a pile of fish. I'm not going to complain about it. We caught a pile of walleyes. What do you got here? Oh, yeah. So there's some walleyes were caught, of course. We caught a pile of crappies on Friday with Randon and Adam there. And then on Saturday, I caught more pike than I knew what to do with. And I was going to bring this up with you, and I wanted to interview these guys, and I meant to interview them, and we just didn't cross paths again at the resort, but I saw them on the lake. And I was fishing. It was midday on Saturday. I'd gone out early for crappies. I couldn't believe how light it was at 6 a.m., by the way. It felt like it was midday already at 6 a.m. on Saturday. It was so bright. And that lake was crystal clear. But I went out early, and then midday I switched over to crappies and tried to find some crappies up there. So I was trying some shallow water and some bays here and there. And all of a sudden I see this boat come rolling in. And they're like, hey, you're the guy with the cameras, right? Back at the resort. I said, yeah, that's me. And they were staying 2 cabins down. And he said, well, what are you fishing for here? And I said, well, I'm fishing for crappies. I don't know why they have a southern accent all of a sudden. They weren't from the south.
Right. That's okay.
They said, what are you fishing for here? And I said, well, I'm trying to find some crappies. They're like, well, you're in the wrong spot. This is a pike spot here. I said, oh. And he goes, yeah, we're too short of our limit. And I said, oh, so you guys have 18 pike right now. And they said, yeah, we're going to keep our limit and cook up pike tonight. So if you're hungry, stop by, and we're going to fry up a bunch of northern pike, which, they weren't. Like, I love eating northern pike, Eric, but generally I like to keep something that's got to be that upper 20s before I really start thinking about keeping it. And they were keeping smaller pike, which was the whole point of that 10 pike per day limit, 10 pike per person limit, is to pull some of those small pike out of there. So my hat's off to these guys for keeping all those pike and cooking them up and eating them. I thought that was great.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, my brother-in-law and I have done that on Star Lake, right? So Star Lake, same regulations. And we had my boy and his boy with us. And I think we were trying to catch walleyes, and same deal. We said, you know what? We can keep 10, we put 20 pike in the live well, and they weren't giants. Obviously they fell within the regulations, and we cleaned them up and fried them up and had a fish fry. So it's a good point. But again, back to you. I think you just so you know, Bret, I think you did a fantastic job of making fishing in the outdoors the centerpiece of your visit. So, and again, when I, our mission for this event, and I read this, we had 1,000 Zoom meetings, and I read this mission before at the beginning of every meeting, just to make sure that we stayed on task. Our mission was to highlight Otter Tail County's diverse outdoor recreation opportunities, our numerous lakes, and our welcoming communities. That was our mission. And I think we pulled it off, right? Like diverse outdoor wildlife watching is an outdoor recreation, right? Hiking and biking and paddling, those are all out, dog jumping, that's an outdoor recreation. And so I think we were able to give our guests an experience where they got to feel what it's like to, at least for a weekend, to live the good life in Otter Tail County.
I wish I would have been able to experience some of those other. Oh yeah, you got to talk about Willie and his guy. Hey, let's come back. Let's come back to that for 1 second, because I just want to say I wish I could have done some more of the events. I want to apologize to Lund, because I wanted to get over there for the Lund Boats tour, and Eric, I had my truck so full of stuff to get up there, and all my camera gear, all my fishing gear, my boat, and then loading up my 2 dogs is literally like loading up 2 toddlers. And, making sure they had snacks for the 2-hour ride. It was like I was pulling my hair out by the time I pulled out of my driveway. So I got on the road a little bit late, so I apologize for not making it to that tour. But as I was driving around, I was learning about some of these other kind of cool historical things. And just like the story of how Dead Lake got its name. If I would have had another day or two, I would have loved to have kind of dig into the history of, you have to think that it's something when you got a place like Battle Lake and then Dead Lake, you had to think there was some history there, and to learn a little bit more about that history would have been a really neat part of that story. So I tried to include it in there, and thankfully there was a sign that I could read from at the launch. But I get fascinated by all that historical, cultural stuff like that you find in some of these communities around the state.
Yeah, and we did a land acknowledgement at the opening ceremony to acknowledge that there is a significant Native history. Mm-hmm. Otter Tail Lake got its name because I'm not an expert, so I don't know the tribes, but the natives would meet with the fur traders at the lake with the otter's tail. Right, there's a strip of land, so that's how Otter Tail Lake got. So yeah, there's a significant Native history in our area, and it's always nice to acknowledge that others were here too, and still are. And so no, it's got there's 1,000 stories you could tell for sure.
Let's go back to Willie's experience on the opener, Eric. Right. Tell us about it.
So again, I'm going to go back to everything coming together, right? Like this was not. Eventually it became intentful, but we didn't set out to do this. But we had a couple of travel bloggers. And they're travel bloggers. They're not necessarily fishing bloggers. And my father-in-law, who is new to the sport of fishing, they have a place at East Silent Resort on East Silent Lake. And I knew my father-in-law was going to be up, and my mother-in-law. And so as we were looking for boat hosts, I asked my father-in-law if he would be a boat host. And then I told him, I said, it'll be you and Willie. And Willie's only 12, so I didn't know if he would step into his role or not. I didn't know if he would shy away from it. But the long story short, this couple met up with my in-laws and Willie Saturday morning, and they fished for 4 hours. And my father-in-law said that the gal asked Willie 1,000 questions, like literally, she just kept asking him questions, and he had 1,000 answers. And he stepped into the role, and he was a good host. And the final tally was Willie caught 8 fish and everybody else caught 0. So it just worked out perfectly. I had a pair of travel bloggers who don't know much about fishing, and I could put them at East Silent Lake Resort, which is an awesome resort, which my in-laws were already staying at, right? And then I had a kid and a grand, so they had a completely different experience, that kind of that family, generational, laid back, let's go for a pontoon ride and see if we can catch some fish. And that fit their style.
But I heard they missed more than they could count or something. Is that what I?
Well, he told them to say they something like, yeah, I don't know what it was, but he stepped into his role really, really well. Awesome. And his grandpa, my father-in-law said the only question he struggled with, well, there was two of them. She asked him what his favorite lake was, and he's like, I'm not telling you that. It was so good job. He knows. And then she asked him, what else do you love about Otter Tail County other than fishing? And he kind of gave her a blank stare, like,
what else is there?
I don't know. What else is there? So, no, I was super glad. And shout out to my buddy, Tony Grosskreitz, because in the planning process, he's like, how are you going to get your family involved? And I was like, they're not necessarily from an all hands on deck, but just from, this is only going to happen. I mean, this is the last time I'm ever going to chair this thing. So how can we get the family involved to make them feel like it wasn't just dad working, we were all part of the same thing. And so Willie obviously was involved as a boat host and probably the youngest boat host ever. I don't know. We'll have to look through the record books, but co-boat host, to be completely honest. And then my wife was able to be a part of it, at the shore lunch on Saturday, and she helped me out. I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off on,
I
for
saw
48 hours.
For 30 seconds there.
So
yeah,
exactly. I apologize, but
right.
So my wife was there, and then she was able to be part of the closing ceremony too. So it was, again, for as much as hand wringing and sleepless nights as we had leading up to it, I wouldn't change a thing. Like there's nothing, as I look back at it with hindsight, like there's nothing. And that staff right there, Marie's in the back right next to my boss, Nick. Marie, she worked so tirelessly and she stepped up so huge. Nicole Allum is there with Explore Minnesota. Rebecca Umland, Lori from Thumper Pond, the Thumper Pond staff stepped up. Shannon Terry, Gene Bowman from Visit Fergus Falls, and then Executive Director John Edmond from Explore Minnesota Tourism. Like, I said this, I think, in our last conversation. If there's anybody out there that has been a part of this planning process, kudos to you, because it is a very daunting task. But well worth it. And that, that'll be the next question, I'm sure, down the road is, was it worth it? Would you do it again? I wouldn't do it again in the short term, but I think it was absolutely worth it. I think, yeah. I'm going to beat this drum till the day I die, but we put you in a resort. We put those 5 gals in a resort. We put somebody in East Silent Resort. We had 20 some resorts spread out. We infused cash into the local economy that weekend immediately. And then hopefully, and I will say this, there's Erik Kep with the governor. Erik put the governor on fish, and Erik said he saw the governor get bit 4 times, and they had one on, right? But the governor needs to come back and go fishing, and we can work on his hook set. That's what I was told, is we got to work on that hook set. So
well, he should have stuck around for a few more hours to keep fishing.
Well, there's that.
No, man. Go ahead, Erik.
Let me say this. He showed up Friday morning at 8:30 at the media row thing. He went to local businesses. He bought donuts. He did dozens of interviews. And then he went to the Lundboat factory tour. And so I had a reporter ask me if I was disappointed he was only here for such a short time. And I said, he wasn't here for a short time. He was here for 24 hours at least, and he went and did things and met people. He sat down with, so at Thumper Pond after the media row was over, he sat down. I might be misspeaking here, but he sat down and chatted with Otter Tail Power about, their needs and their desires. He sat down with some public health officials. Yeah, and by the way, I got to do some interviews too. I got to wear that hat again. So yes, he left a little. Yeah, I've done that before. He left a little earlier than anticipated, but I wouldn't say it was fair that he was only there for a short time. I will say this, and I'm not trying to be. He showed up, and there were others that did not. Let me just say that there were other people that were invited that chose not to come, and it doesn't matter which side of the aisle they're on, or we don't need to get into that. But he showed up, and I was grateful for that. The people that were there on Friday, the media, the locals, the whatever that were there on Friday, they got some quality sit down chat time with him. There was a guy who wrote a book, Bob Allen. He wrote a book, something Walleye, Walter the Wily Walleye, or something like that. And he wasn't on the schedule. He wasn't supposed to, be part of the bit. But he had contacted me earlier in the week, and I'm like, well, you can come hang out. I can't guarantee, because he wanted to give the governor the book, And sure enough, that guy waited for 2.5 hours till he finally got his set, and then he got to have a moment with the governor and give him his book. So I think he was very gracious and open on Friday, and yeah, he left a little earlier than scheduled. But like I said, there were others who did not that chose not to attend, and why I can only guess.
Well, this conversation has come up with you and I, and this conversation has come up with a multitude of people throughout the weekend, that regardless of your side of the aisle, regardless of what you think of the governor or other politicians, I tend to lump a lot of politicians into one basket, regardless of what letter is next to their name. There's some good ones out there. But this event was about fishing, and this event was about the Otter Tail County community, and that's what it should have been. That's what the focus should have been on, and that's what I focused on while I was there. And I think it'll be back, Erik, and whether or not you want to chair it next time it comes back, I think I know exactly who will be chairing the event. Not only will be chairing that event next time it comes on, but might have your job soon, and you're related to him.
Who?
Willie.
Okay. Yeah.
You had to know.
Well, I thought he's got a tip, a chair, and a chance. I've put him in guiding situations before, and he's kind of shied away from the responsibility of being a host. You know what I mean? And I was super proud that he stepped up and he played his role. He answered literally 1,000 questions, and then he caught fish. I mean, he wasn't trying to rub it in, but he just, he had to prove that it can be done. It's just a matter of putting the time in.
Sometimes as a guide, you have to do that. That's always the tough question when you're a guide. Do you fish? Do you not fish? And when your guests aren't catching or shooting, if you're a hunting guide, sometimes you have to show them that this is how you do it, and it is possible. Right. There are fish down there. Sometimes that's the way it goes. But from the youngest boat host to the youngest event chair, I think we might see Willie down the line. Next time we have this conversation, that's what we'll be talking about.
I'd help him however I could, if that's what he chooses to do.
Would you tell him to do it, or would you tell him, nah, just don't do it. Don't do it, man.
Well, so okay, if you would have asked me that on Thursday night, I would have said, don't do it. Don't do it. It's not worth it. But after now, and maybe I'm naive, maybe I'm biased. I have my own filter, right? I'm looking at through a certain lens. But now that we've done it, I would for sure do it again. Yeah, I would change a few things, but I don't think there was any major flaws. But if there's any host, if there's any community out there that's considering, should we, shouldn't we? Again, if the measure, it depends on what your measurement of success is. I don't want to burn up all of your tape here, but I had a buddy. Again, there's 100 different stories. I had a buddy, old time buddy. He came up. He was a boat host, and he had a guy in the boat that reminded him of his Uncle Lowell, who had passed away this summer. and he was fighting back tears. Like he told me, he's like, it's a good thing I had sunglasses on, because I was kind of wiping away tears once in a while, right? And so, again, that shared experience, that memory of that weekend, two people from completely different walks of life, random strangers, came together, and you know, they started fishing at 7 a.m, and then they had to decide, should we go in for shore lunch or not? And the answer was, heck no, we're gonna cave. You know, again, back to the fishing was the spotlight. They now have this. I don't know if it was emotional for the other guy, you know, but you know, there's a story. So if you're gonna measure the success of the event on how many people are there, or how much media coverage you got, or, you know, things that fit on a spreadsheet, maybe not. If you're going to measure the event on success on how powerful of an experience did the attendees have, right? Like, I mean, I'm not saying it was powerful for you necessarily, but you had a good time. You had a good experience. You fished a new lake. Like, you'd never been to Dead Lake before, right?
No, I hadn't.
Let me ask you this. How many boats were on Dead Lake?
You know, there was boats. There was a guy on a jet ski playing really bad country music, really loud. I wasn't happy about. But there were fishermen. But there was only one time where I felt like a boat was in my way, and I was trolling shoreline, and he came rearing up and jumped right in front of me on that contour. And then, so as I'm trolling up to him, I'm like, all right, well, this is fishing. It's public body of water. Right. This happens, whatever. And then, I was trolling, and I went out of the way to go around him and then get back on the line. And as I got up around alongside of him, he went from drifting in towards the shoreline to trolling the same break that I was trolling, and was trolling right alongside me. And then I got frustrated, and it was right away on Saturday morning. And I was like, "Is this how my day is gonna go?" And I pulled my trolling motor up, and I put my big motor down, and I went off to a different part of the lake, and I marked a bunch of fish as soon as I went to a new spot, and I had that spot all to myself. And so I can't really complain about it. But yeah, I mean, there was plenty of spots to fish. There was guys definitely fishing there and fishing some of the spots. And I don't know if you saw in that video, it's kind of cool when I came in and was filming some of the sunset stuff. I had the drone up, and somebody went, regardless of how you feel about water recreation, skiers and wakeboards and stuff like that, I'm generally not a big fan of it. But this boat came out with 2 water skiers behind it, and the lake was like glass, and I just happened to have the drone up, and it was one of the coolest things watching that boat and those 2 skiers go across, you know, and creating this wake, you know, across glass. So it was a pretty neat experience.
Cool. Well, we're so grateful you were able to make it a part of your plans, and awesome job on the video. I really appreciate that.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. And Eric, if people want to learn more about how the Governor's Opener went, or just learn more about Ottertail Lakes Country, what should they do?
They can find their inner otter at ottertaillakescountry.com.
Did you know there are more than 1,000 lakes in Ottertail County?
Yep, and I'm going to fish as many as I can. I'm an outdoorsy otter. Nothing beats a full day of fishing for me. The lakes of Ottertail County give me plenty of options to lower my boat and snag the perfect catch. Not an outdoorsy otter? No problem. Ottertail County has something for everyone. You just need to find your inner otter.
To find your inner otter, go to ottertaillakescountry.com. Presented by Onyx, broadcasting from the Prairie Sportsman Studios. All right, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in across the network by demand, sportingjournalradio.com, or by downloading the podcast wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Well, we're post-opener, the annual walleye traditional opening weekend here in Minnesota. How did it go around the state? Well, we're about to go up and find out how things were up at the Great Walleye Factory in northern Minnesota, Lake of the Woods, with Joe Henry from Lake of the Woods Tourism. Joe, how's it going?
It is going good. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Did you get out and do some fishing this weekend?
You know, I got out and did some fishing. I didn't get on my favorite lake, Lake of the Woods. I got on a different lake. You know, I think I mentioned to you in a previous show that we have had a 40-plus year family tradition. And the family tradition is a family fishing tournament. I hear somebody one of your assistants making some noise over there.
Yeah. Hey, guys, we're trying to do a show over here. They don't speak English, though, you know, so That I'm not sure they're understanding me, but yeah, Mika and Tiny are fighting over a bone right now. Anyway, so yeah, you did get out and do some fishing this weekend?
Yeah, got out and did some fishing, and we've had a 40 plus year fishing tournament for our family. Yeah, it's about 10 people. And the way things went, we're fishing a very clear water lake, clear, and there's zebra mussels, and it was dead calm and sunny. And the way the tournament's set up is it's largest fish or heaviest stringer. And if you catch the largest fish, you can't take both trophies. You have to take heaviest fish, and then whoever gets heaviest string gets heaviest stringer. And it's walleyes and pike. And there isn't a differentiation between which species. So under the circumstances, I kind of went pike fishing. I hate to say it. So I went fishing for those rough fish. And you know what? What I saw, yeah. Well, the pike are great. We kid around as walleye anglers when you get them, but the pike are great. And actually you learn how to get that Y bone out, and they're really good eating.
They're delicious.
Too. They're very prevalent. You catch them all year long, and they are good eating. Mm-hmm. But no, I'll tell you what my go-to method was, Bret. I've been a big fan of that Rapala Rip and Wrap. And I put on a good-sized Rapala Rip and Wrap. And it's funny because I was fishing flats and some emergent weeds. And I tried to go into the parts of the lake that had the warmest water. And you're making long casts to get away from the boat in that clear water. And then when you're working that back, instead of just making a steady retrieve, I really mixed it up a lot. And I found that by pulling it forward and letting it drop on a tight line, and pulling that rattle bait forward and letting it drop on a tight line, that was the ticket. I had a friend of mine fishing in the boat, and he only got a couple of fish, and I did pretty good. So there was something to the technique, and even with pike, which kind of surprises. But it was fun. We had a fun opener, caught a lot of big bass accidentally. And yeah, it was good. But it's family, it's tradition, it's a Minnesota fishing opener. And man, what a weather day we had, huh?
It was beautiful, and you're right. I ran into the same conditions. The lake I was fishing on, it was calm and crystal clear water. It was a beautiful day. Like, I'm not going to complain one bit. The walleyes were a little tough to catch. I caught a pile of pike. Could have kept my 10 pike. In fact, I know some guys at the resort that I was staying at. They caught the two of them brought 20 pike in, cleaned them up, and they weren't big. Big pike. So they did exactly what that 10 fish limit is meant to do, and that's take out some of those smaller pike. But they carved them up and cooked them up that night. And I love eating northern pike, and getting around the Y bones. It just takes a little bit of practice, and then it's pretty easy to do. So I have no problem with that. But it was beautiful. Both Saturday and Sunday, for that matter, Joe, were nice days out there. It would have been a good weekend to be on Lake of the Woods with that water clarity up there. It was. And before going to Lake of the Woods, I should say kudos to Erik Osberg and all the folks at Otter Tail Country. That's always, events like that are a lot of work, and it sure seemed like it came off nice. And so kudos to those guys. Great job, and I bet they're relieved it's over. Oh, man. And they had 2 years, basically. They had to prepare for it twice. So it's a lot of work to do it once, but to have to prepare for it twice and then pull it off. It was, I think he was pretty relieved. I bet he slept for about 3 days after it was over. Or that or went fishing, one of the two, right? Right. Yeah. But you know what? Lake of the Woods, yeah, in the opener, it was clear, calm, and people could run if they wanted to. And one of the great things about Lake of the Woods is the stained water. Because when it's a clear, calm day, calm might make it a little bit tougher. But I'll tell you what, that stained water, you can catch walleyes in the cloud cover if it's sunny, whatever the case might be. So that helps. And, most everybody caught fish. A lot of big fish caught, a lot of slot fish caught. People got eaters. A lot of people got limits. Most got enough for a fish fry. So yeah, overall fishing was, really good. And it's like one of the guides said, Kurt Quinnell had a video out, and he kind of mentioned, he goes, we caught a lot of 15 to 19-inch walleyes. Where were those fish ice fishing? Everybody gets all concerned about stuff when you're not catching them. And, who knows where those down walleyes go? Do they go somewhere? Are they in a certain part of the lake where the traffic isn't? Did they slide over to Canada? Somebody mentioned that, during the ice season, that there's a lot of those fish that were suspended down 20 feet below the ice because that's where a lot of food was. So, who really knows? And but it was a good opener, bottom line. Yeah. Well, anytime you can have nice weather like that, it's going to be a good opener, because getting out there and just enjoying life, doing a little bit of fishing is what it's all about in the long run. And when it's sunny, 70 and calm winds, you can really enjoy life. Like I got Tiny out in the boat for the first time. I introduced her to dock jumping. She had this nice beach, and we had the beach to ourselves all weekend to do some dog stuff. So it was a good time to be alive, Joe.
Yeah, good time. Nobody's swimming, huh?
No, nobody was swimming. I almost jumped in a couple of times. I was joking with some of the guys there that I was ready to go for a swim. And he goes, "It might be a little chilly out there yet."
I got to tell you what I did. And I'm not proud of this at all. First time I've ever done it in my life. I have a judge to measure fish. And I've had that thing for years, and it was getting slimy and bloody and everything else. So many fish were catching. So I put it in the water, and you know what's going to happen?
Dropped it.
Rubbing it off with my hand to get the slime off. And I'm usually very cognizant. In fact, normally I don't even hold over the side of the boat. And the darn thing slipped out of my hand, and I could see that in that clear water drifting down. And I could see it in the bottom of the lake. It was in about 10, 11 feet of water, and I could see it. So there's really nowhere to snag it. I tried dragging an anchor over it. That wouldn't pull it up. And I thought, do I strip down to my shorts and dive in and get it? And I thought, with the water temps the way they are, is it worth it? I didn't do it. And I know where it said, maybe I can go back and get it. So a couple of my brothers said, why didn't you just jump in and get it? Well, that ice cold water, you got to be a little careful.
And now it's structure, I think is what they call it. You can go back there and fish for crappies.
Yeah, it is structure.
Well, did you ever see that video from Aaron Weeb up in Uncut Angling up in Canada when he fell through the ice, dumped his sled, all of his gear down to the bottom, and then came back when the water opened up in his boat with I think he had a Panoptix or something, and he was finding it all on the sonar and then snagging it all and bringing it all up?
I did see that, yeah. Well, you saw Erik Osberg when he dropped his cell phone in. The efforts he went through to try to get a cell phone, he never got it through the ice.
Yeah.
Talk about Aaron Weeby. The funny one there, I thought, was when he, I think he hit 100,000 followers or something on YouTube. So they sent him an award. So what did he do with the award?
Made a
He drilled a hole on both sides, made a lure out of it, and caught a 40-inch pike on it.
Yeah. That kid's crazy. The things he does to catch fish. He's good. I was ice fishing in South Dakota one time, and with my buddy Tony and my buddy David, and Tony's phone fell into the lake. So we drove into town and bought a net. Oh yeah, here's Aaron getting his stuff. Yeah, we went into town, bought a net, a fishing net, and then some sort of pole. I can't remember what we got for pole. Maybe just PVC pipe. Maybe we got. I can't remember what it was. But then we went back and we taped it all together. And then I had my underwater camera, and I dropped my camera down to the bottom of the lake. And then they dropped that net down with the pole, and then I directed them on camera. And it was about a 3 or 4 hour ordeal, but we ended up saving the phone, and phone was trash, but he was able to turn it in for insurance. So it was worth going through all that hassle to get it back.
In a judge versus a cell phone, I probably had a half hour into it. I said, all right, for $30 or $40, whatever it costs, I'm moving on. I was in a tournament and everything else. Yeah. But and then, I should say too, we, our Northwest Angle anglers did real well this weekend too. That up there is fishing more structure, underwater points. And, Bret, jigging was a go-to like we thought it would be. Jigging a fathead or a jigging a frozen shiner. I should mention too, with the Northwest Angle, if people want to get up there, the border's closed, but there's still a couple of very viable ways to get up there. One way is you can boat across the lake. You just got to make sure you get the right boat on the right day, and having the right person knows how to run the boat. The other one is the Lake of the Woods passenger service that you have on the screen now. And, that's out of Sportsman's Lodge. That service will take you to any resort up at the Northwest Angle. And, of course, the third way is Lake Country Air. So Lake Country Air, based out of Duluth, they now are going to have a plane stationed in Bret. You can fly over the lake in 10 minutes and land on the water up there, and they'll take you to any resort you want. So it's a really, really good way to get up to the angle. And, once you get up there, it's nirvana. I mean, it's incredible up there. Fishing's great. I talked to a couple of the people up there, and they said, one of them said, people said they caught fish almost in every spot they went to in the morning. Afternoon was a little bit tougher on opening day. talked to another resorter. He didn't make it out. He had some work he had to do. He didn't have any trips because he couldn't get customers up there because the roads closed. But he said my wife and my son went out fishing just to test it out, and they both got walleyes. So fishing's been just really good.
What's the latest on the negotiations between the two countries in that situation?
You know, there's some stuff happening. You know, we so appreciate the support we have gotten from Senator Paul Etke, State Senator Paul Etke, Representative Matt Grossel, and our U.S. senators. You know, Senator Klobuchar, Senator Smith, and also Michelle Fischbach, Pete Stauber, and Tom Emmer. You know, those guys have been sticking up for the angle. We're going to bat. And, you know, Senator Klobuchar just had a meeting where she went up and she chaired a joint group of politicians from Canada and the United States, high-ranking officials. And Northwest Angle was top of the list. So we thank her for that. And, you know, they're pushing hard. They're trying to work with their Canadian counterparts and figure out something. I did hear that Canada is starting to talk about how to open the border. That was a news report that leaked out, I think, that I hadn't heard before up until this past week. So it looks like things will be coming, but you know what? Our resorts up there, man, they're struggling. Can you imagine? This is a second summer. Everything else is opening up in Minnesota, and they're still stuck. They're held hostage because they got a road that leads through Canada, and there's no talks. Canada won't consider opening that road at this point. And I don't know if it's political. I don't know if it's because they're siloed in their government. I don't know what's going on, but we have the top level officials trying to work on it, and hopefully something pops soon. We're working on two angles, Bret, quite frankly. One of them is to get that 40 miles of remote road opened up through Canada. We're not asking for the whole border in our case. We're just asking for 40 miles. People could be using a GPS tracker. They could be doing a check-in system where they get major fines if they go outside the parameters, or they could be using a pilot car. And we're willing to do whatever we can to make those work. Otherwise, an international travel corridor going up to the angle would eliminate a lot of problems in the future. Secondly, you know, we're trying to get some financial compensation for these resorts. There's trillions of dollars coming from the federal government about COVID stuff. This is absolutely related to the pandemic. The borders closed. And these poor resorts, some of them are down 90% in their revenue. How much longer can they hang on? I mean, it's just terrible.
If there were to be some sort of GPS device used, or a pilot car, who would cover those costs? Where would that come from?
We will. We'll figure out a way. I mean, if they would consider having a pilot car, hey, back 40 years ago, one of the resorts up at the Angle had to bring fish that they netted. You know, back then commercial netting was in play. They netted fish and they had to bring them down to Warroad. Well, the Canadians wouldn't let them go through without a pilot car, so they paid for the pilot car. And we could certainly do the same. There's ways we can get this done. This is a 40-mile road that it goes through one small town called Sprague, Manitoba, but there's actually a road that goes around Sprague. And I think you only pass like 10 or 15 driveways on the whole way. It's bush, you know? And the last time, I mean, think about it. You're in a closed vehicle traveling through as a corridor. You're not stopping for anything. And if you would, you get fined seriously. I mean, it could have been done a long time ago. And again, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes up in Canada, but we've heard crickets in that regard.
Well, that's too bad.
You know, in fact, I'll tell you, Paul Coulson, who you know, he, so right now, for our residents up there, they changed the rules. So after 13 months of being able to travel down and get essentials down in Warroad and Roselle, groceries, medical, now they're being told that they have to get their essential services in Canada. Mm-hmm. So last month, he went to Steinbach, Manitoba to get his groceries, a community of 10,000. Just last week, he and his wife boated across Lake of the Woods and went up to Kenora and had a reporter meet him up there.
Interesting.
And if you check the Lake of the Woods Tourism Facebook page out, we have the story that the Kenora reporter wrote that, okay, so let me get this straight. Our Canadian government is telling you as an American who haven't been tested to come up to Canada and to do your shopping and also to try to get your health care as an American in Canada. It doesn't make sense, does it?
None of this stuff makes any sense, and I was really hoping they'd start relaxing some things since America is doing so well in this battle with vaccinations and loosening mask mandates and restrictions. But apparently that's not Apparently that's not the case yet up there in Canada. So there's a little bit of work that needs to be done. Joe, we could continue to talk about this border situation, I'm sure, for hours, but let's resume it next week. For people that want to book a trip up to Lake of the Woods or learn more about it, whether the Angle, the Rainy River, or the big lake there, what should they do?
You know what? Hey, fish are biting and we got openings. And you know what? If you want to check out our website, it's lakeofthewoodsmn.com, and you will see a list of all of our resorts and the current fishing report on that website.
Joe Henry, thank you very much.
Have a good week, everybody.
Northern Minnesota's Walleye Factory is a year-round world-class fishing destination. The perfect getaway this summer is just a short drive to Lake of the Woods. Fish Big Traverse Bay, the Rainy River, or visit the unique Northwest Angle. To catch big fish, you have to go where the big fish are. Plan your trip to Lake of the Woods at lakeofthewoodsmn.com. That's lakeofthewoodsmn.com.